In my notes, I put timestamps for the important shit, and at 0003, the note I came up with was, this drum and bass is offensively post 9/11.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first edition of the Uwe Boll Bowl, the series where we look at the filmography of famed, critically acclaimed director Uwe Boll, and basically find out if there are any redeeming features from any of his films. It's going to be a hard job, but someone's got to do it, otherwise he may box us all to death. So anyway, today we are going to start with his first video game adaptation, which was House of the Dead 2003, and we are going to have a good time. My name is Tom. I am one of your hosts, and I am joined by the eclectic gaggle of sad people that have had to do this with me, and I'm very sorry for roping them all in. Drew, say hello.
Hello.
Jim, say hello.
Hello.
Liam, say hello.
I think that signing up to the Uwe Boll Bowl is the worst decision I've ever made, and I am part of several internet cults. Hello.
He said hello. Thank you. Yeah.
He did say hello. And joining us from the ethereal realm without camera is one Neil Upton. Neil, is it true, if the report's correct, that you are currently held captive in the basement of Uwe Boll?
That is 100% correct. And let me tell you, he's got the air conditioning on. It's not so bad.
Oh, I am very jealous. Has he got room for one more?
He's got a little fridge in here as well, mini fridge.
What's in the mini fridge? What does Uwe Boll drink?
There's 2 Diet Cokes. That's it. He hasn't refilled it for a while.
Okay. I don't know why the idea of Uwe Boll drinking entirely Diet Coke is funny, but it is quite funny.
It's either that or broth. He seems to strike me as a broth kind of guy.
In the heat of summer. Of summer.
It's got a lovely chicken stew go.
Yeah. Or red wine, but only by the pint. Only in pint glasses. Yeah. I feel like that could be another thing. Does anyone regret the decision of doing this so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. It's off to a terrible start. I thought it would be fun. The idea is funnier than doing the actual thing.
Yeah, I mean, we've all watched it, and for full disclosure, we will be diving straight into spoilers, basically from the offset. So, if you care about spoilers for this film, please
for
turn
all the ball heads out there. Oh, this one.
The Bowl Boys. Oh yeah, I should probably explain the name of this, because the Uwe Boll Bowl doesn't really make sense unless it's got like a title graphic. So maybe I'll make one up. But it's essentially it's our riff on the Super Bowl, but instead of from what I understand in my limited knowledge of American football, is that the Super Bowl is just like the cup final type thing. This is going to be more of like I envisage it as like a ranking system where eventually we have a leaderboard of the best to the worst Uwe Boll movies, and hopefully, in a weird way, we'll have a favorite Uwe Boll film by the end. But
you know what we should have called it?
What should we have called it?
Release the bowl cut.
Because it's a haircut and Justice League. I get it.
Don't
treat yourself to a Diet Coke. Treat yourself to a Diet Coke, Neil.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's all right. So House of the Dead. We will do a quick synopsis, and then we will just dive into what we thought and if it has any redeeming qualities. So this is based on the very, very popular 90s arcade shooter game of the same name, but that is about as far as the similarities go, because in this one, a group of college students travel to a mysterious island to attend a rave, which is soon taken over by bloodthirsty zombies. And that is basically all that happens in this film in a nutshell.
You described it in its entirety. You talk about no spoilers. That was the movie.
That is the movie, the first line on IMDb. So I guess straight out of the gate, what did you think of House of the Dead?
This was a film that felt like it was made by a handful of people who were really enthusiastic about the concept of films, but had never actually seen one. Like they'd had cinema explained to them like by someone through a screen door.
Yeah.
And then they decide, oh, we can, because like it has the vague outline of a real movie, like a real film with things in it. Like he gets that, oh, we have to have like an establishing scare with like random people who are disposable, but he doesn't know not to make it last for like the first third of the film and intercut it with the introduction of the blandest human beings in existence and weird detective noir narration.
Instead of like star wipes or anything like you'd see in other conventional cinema pieces, all of the cuts are taken from the laser game.
Oh my god! Yeah,
and they will last for maybe a third of a second as well.
Yeah,
it's so bizarre.
It's very subliminal. Because the thing is that when it first happened, because in the, I think, is it the sec? Because there's like 3 title screens in this film in the opening.
Yeah.
I think it's either in the first or the second one. There's like a weird sort of like stylized bit of the game where it's all sort of, you know, that weird black and white effect with like sort of the neon strips for the lines and everything like that. And at the start, I was like, that's pretty cool. That was
the only bit of the film I actually kind of liked.
Yeah,
I didn't really like it that much, but like I was like, you know what, that's kind of interesting.
Exactly. That's the first line I've got is stylized clips of the game. Actually pretty cool. And then it just got overused to shit.
All right.
Here's my problem with this film. My problem with this film is that it is unheard of for a film this stylistically interesting to be this fucking boring. It is an astonishing feat of cinema because everything is like, we're going to throw in the most bizarre things. Characters are going to come in with inexplicable accents, and we're going to kill them off. It's called House of the Dead. There's no house. Don't worry about it. I'm like, if you're going to do that, start to finish, non-stop. And the entire time I was like, it's got to be over soon. It has to end soon. I can't do this anymore.
Can you help me out, guys, by the way? What nationality was the captain? Was he Russian? Was he German?
I think he was meant to be German.
See, he sounded so Russian late in the film.
He sounded very French.
Did anyone else feel like they would much rather have been watching this weird, like, movie about this German libertarian boat captain and the government
absolutely
who's constant like that's the movie I wanted to be watching. I wanted to watch him and this weird like
his Igor-like sidekick who just mutters
his hook-handed boat husband. Yeah,
like, also Ron Howard's brother.
Yeah, I was going to say
Howard's
Clint
brother.
Howard. It's like, why was Clint Howard in this movie?
No, see, the better question is that boat captain. Why is Jürgen Prochnow in this movie?
Yeah,
that was the captain of Das Boot.
High profile. He's by far the most high profile one there.
And here's the thing: like, this will become a theme. Uwe Boll seems to have the ability to get one really reputable actor in each of his films.
Yes.
I can't wait for Ben Kingsley in Blood Rain. Actually, no, Blood Rain is riddled. But Blood Rain is riddled with A-list actors like they're fucking herpes or something. It's terrible. There's everybody there. There's the guy from Titanic, bad guy. There's Michael Madsen drunk off his ass. Billy Zane, that's the one. Billy Zane is in Blood Rain. Anyway, we'll get to that. Well,
I wait your fucking turn, Blood Rain.
We're coming to you.
All three Blood Rains.
All 3 of them.
We have to work out a plural for Blood Rain.
You say about like the opening being like the only good bit. Was that Prodigy in the soundtrack at the beginning?
It sounded like Prodigy.
I loved that. That's my first note on it. Is sick Prodigy soundtrack.
In my notes, I put timestamps for the important shit, and at 0003, the note I came up with was, this drum and bass is offensively post 9/11.
I love that so much.
I stand by it. And like, it is the most like, we are about to invade Iraq and we are down for it. Like that's what the soundtrack of this movie is like telegraphing to me.
Oh my God.
Post music, the first time white people were disenfranchised.
Speaking of white people, the Sega rave, as we will dub it from now on, is the whitest crowd I've ever seen in any party scene in any American film, including American Pie.
The smallest crowd ever seen in any film.
7 people. I don't think Uwe Boll or anyone involved in this film has ever seen or been to a rave in their entire. They're like, oh, it's like a party that no one goes to outside.
Yeah. There are like fit dancers
during
there,
the day.
And everybody drinks alcohol. Definitely, they have alcohol and nothing else at raves. That's the point, right? Out of red cups, like they're college frat boys.
I will argue against you guys saying that it was the whitest crowd. Right? There was exactly one Asian American woman who appeared for a millisecond and had her tits out. Like that's
Yes.
Yes,
there is-
on stage. Yeah.
The amount of
a
times people had their tops off in this. I wrote,
Oh
this
my
has a
God.
budget
Oh.
of $12 million, and it was probably to pay for people to take their tops off.
Yeah.
it
100%.
is a
It
college
lingered.
girl gone wild with zombies in it. It is an incredible feat of pornography.
Like,
No,
'cause
they're forgetting Liberty, my favorite character, Liberty, wearing the American flag across her chest.
Liberty.
And I was sad when she bit it because she got eaten by zombies. She first was about to get drowned and then got eaten by zombies. And my brain just made me like, you know, when you say something dumb in your head and you just go, I was just like, so this is how Liberty dies. She's eaten by zombies.
He's got a Star Wars reference in there before me, you
A
bastard.
prequel reference as well.
I love it. I love it. But yeah, like the whole like toplessness thing. There's the bit where is the two like, you know, ancillary characters that go to the beach and then one of them goes swimming, and it's the Jaws scene. It's the scene
Yes.
from
Yes.
Jaws,
Yeah.
but with more titties. That's
I was gonna
literally it.
say, Jim was saying it's like they've never seen an actual film, and yet I clocked maybe like 5 or 6 references to some very famous horror franchises. Not the least, they call out Night of the Living Dead because, of course, it's a zombie film, but that was a copy of the Jaws scene. They had the POV like it's Halloween or Predator of the psycho killers and everything like that. He was just riffing off references to other greater franchises, and I just like to think that he was like, "I'll be next. Next one's me. I'll be in the ranks of Spielberg and George A. Romero."
That scene where they're getting their kit off and then Zambos happen. What I really love about that is that upon she takes her shirt off, and then upon seeing titties, the guy's first response is to take his sandals off. I really like that. That's such a humanizing moment. He sees these nipples and just goes, "Oh, I can't have shoes for this."
I like how he does get dressed from the bottom up because he takes his pants off, doesn't he, before wading into the water? And I'm thinking,
He knows where the business end is. Like he's worked out that like, everything from the waist down clear. Like,
being as
this is-
efficient as possible. It's a real wonder why anybody wanted to have sex with anybody in this film, because there was a moment where one of our delightful main characters vomits in his girlfriend's face, and it's nasty, like seasickness, like thin, wet puke. You know what I mean? It's like, and then mere hours later, she's trying to get out down and dirty with him, and I'm like, you can probably still smell his puke on your clothes.
The most amazing thing about that scene is that he pukes on her, and then she is everyone is laughing, and she is also laughing whilst talking about how disgusting.
Yeah.
And it was like, was that like a character choice, or did they just be like, well, we've used our puke budget on that take,
I mean, and the
fix
thing,
it in the edit?
Speaking of budget, they really, really, really got their money's worth from that one day they had a helicopter. I did love that. We got maybe like 12 or 13 different passes of it every 2.5 minutes. Just like, oh, yep, just a reminder, we got a helicopter for like 30 seconds.
Right at the end, don't like the spoiler warning for this bad film that no one's going to see. Then right at the end, like the secret agents show up in a helicopter. That's got to be the same one.
Yeah.
The same helicopter.
I get the feeling they were very, very efficient with the budget and pocketed a lot of money at the end of the day. Like $12 million. Like the makeup on all of these, $12 million. Evil Dead had a budget of tuppence and some pubic hair, and they produced like one of the best horror movies of all time. And like this one looks like it was produced on half of the cost, a single pence.
Now, see, I maintain, like, I am genuinely amazed that 12 million was the budget for this, because the only stuff that like was really fun about this film came from its chronic cheapness. And like when they're on the beach and they're doing the and it's sexy, and then it's a Jaws, like the image of that is like they're on a beautiful long beach with golden sands, and then you look at it and it's this gray. It's like they've gone to Bournemouth to film this scene, and it just wonderful. Like that, just those little moments where it's like it's not just boring, but it's like cheaply, amateurishly, like embarrassing and inept. Was just those moments were like these little like highlights in this kind of like like little joyous anal beads in a string of misery and boredom.
Because that's the thing, is that they're all these, like, the main group, they're meant to be like these absolutely stunningly attractive people by the way they're talking, and this sounds really catty coming from me, they're all distinctly average. They're all
One of them
distinctly average.
is it like canonically a model? Like that's his defining characteristic.
Yeah. And like, what I really like about his, oh, sorry, after you.
No, go right ahead.
What I like about his character intro is like, yeah, he is really attractive, but there's not much between the ears. And it's like, okay, cool. You've described everyone in this film so far.
Oh.
Everyone.
Thank you, by the way, for bringing up the hard-boiled detective intro. With this city's afraid of me. Zombies are everywhere.
No, I've seen his true face. His face is falling off because it's a zombie.
You can see the paper mache on his face.
I genuinely. The first line of this film comes just before the like opening credit sequence, and the opening line of this film has greater levels of tonal whiplash than some entire films. I had to write the whole thing down. It was a nightmare. So many dead, so many victims. It all started a few days ago when I came here for a rave. That's page
the title
one.
Of this episode.
Oh, God.
You don't want to take it second class.
Oh God, it's so good.
That would make Garth Marenghi proud.
Oh yeah, if you said that in Garth Marenghi's voice, that would be so good. Please, can we do a recut of all of Curian's narration? So many victims.
Is that his name? Because I was able to pick up like a handful of characters, but the main character, I just like fucking hit the name, hit me, and then slid off like water off a duck's ass.
They were trying to do a Robin at the end of The Dark Knight Rises, where it was like, nah, that's the thing, you know, but for like, you know, the 12 people that paid attention to the story of House of the Dead, the arcade shooter.
I got so angry at that. I was like, no movie, you haven't earned that right. You don't get to pretend that you're a prequel in the last 30 seconds.
So who here grew up playing the House of the Dead games?
Yeah,
because
anytime you're on a road trip, stopping off in one of those gas stations. Pew, pew.
I grew up in Skegness, a little coastal town in Nottinghamshire. That is, I cannot stress this enough, fucking horrible. But House of the Dead, the film, is the most accurate depiction of growing up in Skegness I've ever seen. It is a baffling combination of gaudy awfulness, brain dead people eating voraciously, and also there are laser shooters. Like it is the most accurate depiction. Also, maybe it wasn't
Bournemouth that the beaches were filmed at. It was Skegness. This whole film has just been actually locally produced in Skegness.
If it was Skeg, they wouldn't have been able to go into the water.
They would have come out as zombies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it would have really that might have actually been where all the budget went, just like trying to clear out like a patch of nuclear waste on the coastline so that they could go in and die.
Speaking of money,
what you said about forgetting the guy's name, here's like, I realized partway through, like the fundamental question: who is the protagonist of this film?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because it's not your narrator. He doesn't show up until halfway through.
It starts off to be Puke Guy, and then it becomes the captain in your brain. The movie doesn't want you to be the captain, but the captain is the protagonist in my brain.
Yeah, right. So, all right. So what we need is protagonists are defined by the arcs in which they travel, right? And the captain is the only one who has an arc because he starts out as a libertarian boatman and ends the film as a dead libertarian boatman. That is more arc than anyone else in the film gets. And also he has like a brief moment of pathos and tragedy where his hook-handed husband emerges from the shadows. And you have this whole thing of like, oh, is he going to go outside? He's obviously a zombie. Also, that the initial interaction with Hook-Hand Husband, whose I think name was Salish, which is a fucking choice.
Yeah.
The first interaction with him is the only sincere laugh I got from this film.
Oh my God. Forget it. I mean, stop talking and start walking.
But it's when there's a moment where they're like, oh, we can't go there. It's Isla de la Muerte. And then he kind of comes in and goes, yeah, that's death in Spanish in case you don't speak Mexican. That's a good line. It's not a good line, but it's better than this film fucking deserves.
No. I got two more genuine laughs out of the film. One of them was They're about to go onto the zombie island, and the Mexican, for essentially that guy, he brings a cross to topless girl and says, "Take this." And she's like, "Why?" It's for your protection. And she goes, "It's okay, I'm on the pill."
Oh,
That one-
I love
that
that
one.
little scene. That was so unbelievable.
Slew me. What the? And
Well,
there was,
that implies a lot of things, but the most important thing it implies in my mind is that Salish is a Catholic, and I don't know why that gets me, but it really does.
raucous.
Salish has canonically taken communion, and I find that really funny for some reason.
Salish is my favorite character. I made more notes on his dialogue than almost anything else in the entire movie. I really, really missed him when he got killed. The most aggressive fisherman.
No, I'm sorry. I feel like we're all sleeping on the actual real MVP of the film, which is Casper, the Coast Guard lady, who manages to be the most combat capable person in the group without ever losing her weird suburban Midwestern mum vibe. It's like, okay, we're gonna get away from the zombies now. Be careful, if they bite you, you might turn into one. And it's like,
And then she went for the head every single time. She was like, "She's not your friend anymore."
when she was horribly pulled apart and then brought through a window, which seemed crass. Like I genuinely like I there are less notes in my phone since she died, because it was like my brain was like, well, now I don't care. I don't because she was the best thing in this whole movie.
She really was ready to take a life on a dime. I was surprised by that.
And she managed to make a group of insufferably dumb teenagers into a well-oiled militia, basically, within the space of 5 minutes.
I got very, very upset by the way that she was like, they took all the guns that Captain Kirk was smuggling, and then she goes around, she's like, "Ready, the zombies are coming, everybody know how to use their weapons." And then in the following scene, she proceeds to give them the weapons for the first time and train them how to use the weapons. And the order of the scene goes, "You know how to use your weapons? Yeah. Here's your weapon. Do you know how to use it? Let me show you how to use it." They're definitely the wrong way around.
Also, Tom, I object strongly to you saying that these characters are teenagers. They are obviously in their 40s. Every single one of them is obviously like mortgage and second divorce. Like, they're playing teenagers, I will concede, but they are all in their 40s.
They all seem like actors who've been hustling on episodes of CSI Miami for like a good 5 or 6 years as man number 3 who was shot. Like, that was the level I was looking at.
Well, there's what? Which one was
Someone explain to me like how people die in this movie, because every time they die, there's like a weird edit where they just be standing upright and the screen will flash red.
Do the little spin.
I think that's from the game, or it's meant to be.
Well, I assume, right? But like, it was baffling because you just assume they've been bitten or they're getting ripped apart by zombies. Then all of a sudden they're standing upright.
Then they get their own little game over screen.
It's the movie equivalent of a T-pose, basically.
Yeah, that's them glitching out of the script.
I've had enough of this movie.
It's them on their way to catering. But the guy who plays Greg, Will Sanderson, I looked up at everyone's IMDb after, I say after, during watching it, because I needed to distract my eyes somehow. And literally, aside from a few voice acting credits, every film he is in is an Uwe Boll film. He's just an Uwe Boll lifer, and just is in all of his films.
He was the guy kept in Uwe Boll's basement before Neil was put in there.
Yeah.
Hey, Neil, if you're lucky and you play your cards right, Blood Rain 4, what do you say?
You get 3 Diet Cokes for that.
So, on the subject of the characters, in the kind of gritty noir opening, he's kind of panning over all the characters and he goes, "Karma, she thinks that she's Foxy Brown." And then throughout the rest of the film, Karma does very little. And what I think the script means by that is that Karma is the black one.
Yeah.
That's my assumption.
I expected her to be like that black character in horror movies, like, "Oh, girl, you don't need to do that." Not snap, you know. But she was possibly the most sort of inoffensively stereotyped character of all of them, because the dumb white jock guy was a dumb white jock guy, and then but for some reason she was like, "Oh, hello, yes, it's me. You've forgotten my name. I'm so inoffensive."
Is there a chance that like Uwe Boll, Mark Altman, the screenwriter, was that they were leveraging that to create a sense of like an unreliable narrator, where actually he says, "Oh, she thinks she's Foxy Brown," and then that never comes up, and it's actually like, "Oh, Rudy, you're just racist. You're just a racist narrator."
Yeah.
I mean,
This film is like a hateful eight.
I will say,
No way more layers than we think.
this movie maybe has my favorite Chekhov's gun of anything that I've ever seen, which is, so we haven't brought up that the zombies are all the creation of a Spanish immortal priest.
Yes.
Yep.
Who appears, according to one flashback, to be working under a conquistador who looks a lot like Captain Pugwash.
Yep.
It's a really beautiful moment.
Oh
It's
my
like,
god.
I'm going to do evil rituals on the dead of this island. It's like
It ends with the main character's ex and him having a fight, and she cuts his head off.
Yes.
But actually rewatched some bits of the film afterwards.
Why?
That is established because he talks about how the reason they broke up was so that she could concentrate on her fencing.
yes.
Okay, I missed that
is
line.
the thing. Yeah,
What the hell?
Because I was like, you've ended a relationship
because that stuck
for
in my head,
fencing.
because I remember thinking like, sorry, you broke up so she could fence. Put that scene in the movie. I want to see how that scene plays out.
That is the most intriguing thing that I missed in this film. I can't think of anything else now.
Like,
did
they
she
didn't
mean
bother-
fencing with swords, or was she selling things on the black market? Is she a Black Thomas Crown affair? Is she what?
Because the line goes like, "Oh, I had to focus on school, and she wanted to focus on her fencing. I don't think it'll ever be useful, but I guess we'll see." It's like, "Oh, thanks, movie."
Wink.
What the hell? That's amazing.
Oh.
Oh, that was the Spanish immortal priest, by the way, who I was convinced. By the way, the dubbing in this film, I was about to say, is done terribly. The overdubbing is one of the most unaligned audio I've ever seen of a film at different levels. But
It's like
specifically,
spaghetti western in places.
oh, absolutely. And why was he always filming conversations at a good hearty 12 to 15 feet away from the characters?
Yeah.
Like, I want to get all of you in the frame here. Just want all of this right now. And no close-ups, no over the shoulder, no shot, reverse shot. It's all just, we're going to film this candidly. Like it's a fucking documentary here. No, it was the Spanish guy has my favorite, and also the line that made me want to die the most, where Rudy was his name, the guy who's narrating, being held down in the chair and the table by all the zombies, talking to Spanish priest man, and he's just like, "You created it all so that you could become immortal. Why?" And he goes, "To live forever."
Yeah.
And I think that is the worst thing I've ever heard in anything. That beats anything from The Room, because it wasn't without a hint of irony. There wasn't anything I could laugh at about it. I was just sat in stunned disbelief that someone with I imagine just an old quill, just sat alone in their study with a piece of parchment, writing their magnum opus for the cinema, going, "This is gold. This is just, this will be the Oscar right here."
Screenwriting 101. Your villain needs a clear motivation.
That he says twice in a sentence. Yeah.
And the characters there needs to be a bit of relation, a bit of sympathy between our hero and the villain. Immortal, live forever. Apples, oranges, mate. Come on.
That scene is immediately preceded with them all like going down into the basement to try and track down immortal Spanish priest. And they turn around, and Greg, who had recently died, is there. And he is a Dracula now. He is a Dracula. He is wearing a cape. He has a widow's peak. He looks at the camera like he is a Dracula out of fucking nowhere. And everyone's like, "Greg, you're alive." And everyone should be going, "Greg, you're a Dracula." And they all rush towards him. And fucking Calciprines, he's a Dracula.
I was so confused what happened to Greg. He's the most baffling of them all.
You know what did make me laugh? That scene where they were walking through that basement passage. He was trying to clearly evoke the idea that they're playing the light gun game where they're all just walking down it, just firing their guns one after the other. I thought it was kind of clever. Like, it wasn't clever at all, but like, you know.
I mean, it's what they did in Doom 2005, I think, but Doom did it better.
It was not subtle. Like, they were just sort of walking through this hallway, just shooting at stuff. And it's just, I mean, I guess that's what the game is. And could have done that for an hour and a half, really.
Don't remind us of the game, because the game is good. don't remind me of Jaws, because I like Jaws. Don't remind me of Night of the Living Dead. These are good films. Stop bringing them up. This is shit.
Also, in that scene, we had moss monsters, which inexplicably just revived.
Yeah.
The guys who show up in like Vietnam ghillie suits and just start shooting people. Yeah. They're great.
That scene also featured Karma delivering what I actually think is the most like telling line of how little thought went to this film, because it's where like all the zombies and like that he's been cutting pieces off to fix onto his skin mask collage, and she says, "Why aren't these zombies alive like the others, ma'am? That's a corpse. You just described a corpse. It's a normal corpse. That's the least remarkable thing you've seen since you arrived."
You're in a room with a zombie fish that doesn't get explained any more than that. There's just a zombie fish.
A zombie fish with the face of a man, no less. It pans over. I was expecting anything, but I recently played Resident Evil 8, and like, you know, fucking zombie fish out of the wazoo in that game. And I was like, okay, shit, like, is it going to be like a kind of zombie fish, like, kind of, is it going to be like a spooky prop? No, it's a guy. It's a guy with a tadpole tail for a spine. Get fucked. You thought you knew what this movie was about. You don't know shit.
Oh, Seaman.
Yeah.
That's
like that old game, Seaman? Was he just whispering truths about the internet?
Sega, you've done it again.
Oh my god, it's Sega!
But
you gotta say, they really spent whole minutes on that makeup. That was like someone was paid single digits to produce that.
I tell you what, the zombie design and just the creature design in this movie is all over the place, because like when the blonde topless lady first becomes a zombie, she doesn't really look like a zombie. She just looks like she's hungry, and that's it. The rest of them look like Scooby-Doo villains from Scooby-Doo. They just look so rubbery.
Thank you for clarifying. I was confused with Scooby-Doo.
I thought it was the Scooby-Doo villains from...
the Hamilton Scooby-Doos. Yes.
Not the Scooby-Doo villains from Irreversible or anything like that.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Actually, did anyone else notice that this film has the exact same plot as Scooby-Doo and the Zombie Island?
Yes, it does. It has more in common with that than the game.
It's nothing, like right down to the fact that there's not a house in that either. Like,
no, there was a house, and it was millennia old. Remember?
No,
centuries.
It wasn't. It's centuries.
Excuse me.
So they clearly wanted to set that character up as being like, I kicked my mic there. They wanted to set that character up as being like the smart one, but because the film was written by idiots, they didn't know how to do that. So it's like, oh, millennia. It's centuries.
But you don't know where you are.
That's not a thing. You haven't. Oh. And it was just, it was such a wonderful moment of like reach exceeding their grasp. and honestly, I think that's why I feel inclined to give this movie kind of like a slightly gentler treatment than I think the rest of yous, because I'm not to be the needless contrarian that I definitely am.
Yeah, which I gotta say, feeling very hostile towards you now, Jim.
I would like to say a couple of actually positive things about this film, if I may.
Please do.
You may not overrule.
One, the sound design of the noise the zombies make was actually pretty good. It was a very like aggressively inhuman sound. It was the most jarring thing about them, and it almost made them effective as monsters in spite of everything else. That's half of my positive things. And And I'm sorry, but I feel like we have to admit that the 6-minute, like, getting to the house shootout fucking ripped.
Yeah, fair enough. I will concede.
Well,
There is
that
a
was the
moment
dead
in
rap.
that-
It's so dope.
There is a bit in that where what sound a lot like Rage Against the Machine, a zombie backflips into the fray whilst flinging two like axes. It's from, I tell you what it's from, a better fucking film. Like, it has no business being in House of the Dead 2004 by Uwe Bastard God.
That whole scene really shows what an early 2000s film this was, because it was the post Matrix Hollywood landscape.
They were using that exact same technique to spin around them, weren't they? Where they set up multiple cameras.
Yeah.
Well, but it felt like they did not have the technology to do it, so they had to like MacGyver some kind of like analog, because the people didn't freeze when the camera went round them. It felt like somebody, like they just strapped a camera to a dolly and just went and let it go in a circle around them, and there was just so much enthusiasm on display in that whole scene that I genuinely like got super into it for that 6-minute period, because it was like watching a bunch of kids filming a movie on Super 8 in their backyard for a bit. It was that bit was just I genuinely like would happily rewatch that.
I genuinely did rewatch that several times, mainly just because my face as I was just watching it grew steadily more amused. Just
Yep. Also, speaking of MacGyver, Casper's deputy is literally called MacGyver's, which is another just chef's kiss. Just,
do you know what? There was a moment that genuinely shook me, was when they were doing one of their slow-mo Matrix bits. I think it was backflipping axe zombie comes at Black Girl and flips onto the scene, dives into the air, shucks his axe, camera swings around, she leaps into the air with a shotgun, just like in a tiny, like, you know, like the smallest leap imaginable. She's like, in reality, she's 6 inches off of the ground, but they've lifted her with CGI to be 6 feet in the air, shoots the zombie, and the axe suddenly loses momentum mid-flight and wails off into the distance rather than hitting her. Mainly, I was just thinking, why did you jump? What did that add to the situation? She was there with a shotgun, someone approaching me. Tom, imagine if you just leap at me through the air like you're a goddamn savage, and I have a shotgun, and my first thought is jump a bit and then shoot. I was thinking,
you're trying to tell me that if a fucking like tomahawk zombie leapt at you and started flinging shit left and right, you wouldn't go, which is exactly what she did.
You're telling that she's like Mario and her scared jump launched her into the air.
Yeah, she immediately dropped on top of the zombie who burst like a Goomba. Yeah. Also, we are not talking about the other great action scene in this film, which is when Captain Kirk has a cigar and a gun and is just taking pot shots off the side of his boat with zero interest. And he's just walking around. It's like, it is honestly like this. Bang! 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 5 minutes. It's great. It's just him wandering about, shooting the dead.
With a cigar in his mouth,
character.
just not saying any lines. That was, by the way, the third line that made me genuinely laugh was zombies in the water trying to drown Liberty. God bless Liberty. And he's taking pot shots with his obscenely like high-tech, like modern military AR with a laser sight on it for some reason. And he's taking pot shots at everybody. And then he's like, shoot it. And he just goes, the fuck do you think I'm trying to do, you fucking moron?
It's the most real line in the film. Like everything else is like kind of camp and a bit kitsch. In that moment, he sounded genuinely mad. Like as if he was like, it's like, I'm doing it. Fucking hell, woman.
14th take ad lib. He's just muttering it, like thinking, I don't get paid.
He's just responding to stage directions at that point. But yeah, I like going back to the climactic fight scene. It's just the most inadvertently funny thing I've ever seen. It just everything about it is great. Like Casper's legs just getting the bit
ripped off. Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, and then after that, the model guy having like just literally a bad graze on his face, and then making out he's the Elephant Man.
He had a little boo-boo, is what he
Yeah,
had.
the priorities of these kids, adult kids in this film, are insane. They are literally insane. And I mean, it's a horror movie trope that teenagers are dumb and they will do dumb things. It is on a whole different like solar system in this film. They are the dumbest people I think have ever been committed to film.
Yeah, it's beyond, like, it's not even that kind of dumb where you have a good laugh at it prior to a 1980s like slasher film where you're like, oh, these guys are gonna die and I'm gonna be entertained by this. It's kill them quicker, please.
We need to fucking thin the herd a little bit, because I'm starting to get palpitations.
Starting to side with the zombies.
I don't want to listen to the things these guys were saying. I'll tell you what, like, oh, there was something like, no, because the beginning, when they get on the boat, the fact that they are like bribing their way charting their way onto this island for this, the rave of the year. Wait, Sega's rave of the year.
The Sega rave.
It's in all the magazines, Sega magazine. It's like, you like Sonic the Hedgehog? Check out our fucking rave, man. Come on. 12-year-olds all over the place, titties now. Anyway,
Ted is going to be there selling meth.
And he spends, what does he spend? He says 300, guy barters 600. He says, no, it's the Isla de Muerto, I'm not going. And he gives him 1,000. What other things have you spent $1,000 on? Adjusting, that would be like, what, 700 pounds or something like that. What are some things you spent $1,000 on?
This is 2004, so like the financial crisis has happened since then. So honestly, that's like in modern.
He put down a house.
I think that boat ride to the Isla de la Muerte cost more than the house I live in. Like that.
He could have bought the captain and his first mate as slaves for that money. In this day and age, he could have purchased them as indentured servants in his life.
As I was watching it, I was thinking, like, no one has ever wanted to go to a rave as badly as this man wants to go to this one specific rave.
I just love Sega.
Are there not other landlocked raves you could have driven to instead?
They say that at the start. They said, if only they can go partying in New Jersey instead, then I'll still be alive.
As opposed to Seattle. Like, it's set in fucking Seattle, and the nearest island is called Isla de la Muerte. Like, is this presumably Seattle that's in fucking Colombia? Like, it's the most baffling choice.
It's like almost Lost Boysian. It's like, oh yeah, this is zombies off the coast of Seattle. It's whatever, man. Do you reckon cartographers have a bit of trouble with all of the endless Isla de Muertos where they have to just encounter them? They're like speaking to locals and they're like, oh, what's that little outcrop of rock over there? And they're like, we never go there. And he's like, let me guess, is the Isla de Muerte? Is it the Isla de Muerte? What do you got on this one? Dinosaurs? Fuck off. No.
Is that the one that has the zombies on it? Is that the one with the giant monkey? I can never get it. I can never work out which is it.
Ape Island.
Oh, don't go to Ape Island. That's the one with the zombies.
Yeah, that's full of zombies.
Zombies, but they're small. It's just big.
But going back to Captain Kirk briefly, he obviously has this very sort of dramatic, climactic ending. But he goes from being able to literally not being able to stand or walk or anything, literally crawling along the floor when he hears his hook boy, who's a very middle-aged man at this point, whistling in the distance. And then as soon as he's out the door, he's standing and he's shooting a gun and all under his own weight. It's like he can walk pretty well for someone who had to crawl off a table.
That, Tom, is the power of love. I'm not going to do a queer reading on this film, but they are definitely husbands. They are in love, and nothing can keep them apart. Not even on death. Not even a violent, like having one's leg ripped off by a zombie or whatever the fuck happens.
I did certainly get way more chemistry between them than any hetero couple in the film.
Yep.
An established hetero couple in the film.
Yeah, like Greg's seduction in this film is akin to. Do you remember that guy in the room that has a BJ and starts like owing before she's even undone his pants.
Wasn't he counting his buttons as they were undone? Like 1, 2, 3, and then collapses onto her with the full force of his 6'1" to like 150-pound body, crushing several of her ribs.
You're missing there in the midst of that, in between counting off his buttons and crushing this poor woman. He says one of the most extraordinarily like violently heterosexual things, which is, he says, and because I wrote this down, gonna hubbity bubbity. I beg your fucking pardon.
Oh god, that's the best way.
You can't just say that. You can't just say that. I feel like, you know, in like ancient surgeries, you used to get you to bite down on a bit of wood before they started cutting. That's how I feel right now. I feel like I need a strap of leather to bite into. When
that's in my brain now, and if I just get drunk one day, getting frisky with the lady, I'm just gonna be like under my breath, just like hubbity bubbity. Hey, you're gonna ruin all of them.
Because like if he just said hubbity bubbity, you think like, oh, it's like a hubba hubba, but he said gonna hubbity bubbity, which implies that that's a verb.
Yeah.
Well,
and
or a doing word.
A doing word.
This is where I actually respect Uwe Boll as like a cinematographer, because he did mercifully keep us from seeing what happens when that man ejaculates. If huppity buppity is what he says when he's about to. Like, if that's his like fucking dirty talk, that's how he's trying to seduce someone. What the fuck is he gonna say when he comes? Because it is gonna be nuts. It's gonna be dark.
It's gonna be nasty.
Bibbidi bobbidi bibbidi bobbidi.
Bibbidi bobbidi boo! I'm sorry.
Got me, Madam Mim.
I feel like he'd say something, because there's that bit where the guy adopts an English accent. I feel like he'd say something very innocuous in a very, very posh British accent. He would just, I'm arriving, darling. Really strongly. That scene also stuck out in my brain, because they're about to hubbity bubbity, of course. And he gets up and is like, oh, wait, I need to go pee. And first of all, his thought was, I'm gonna pee, not to kink shame anybody, but he wanted to urinate right next to the lady inside the tent where they wanted to make sweet love with each other. But then he continues to pee outside. And this is a question I pose to everybody. It was just, it's not possible to pee when you have a full erection. That's a lie.
No, like at the very best, he had a semi, and it still would have come out like a fire hose.
Yeah.
Honestly, the pressure would have taken him off the fucking ground.
The tightness, the stream will have been 1 atom thick, and it would have come out at possibly the speed of sound, severing flesh from bone.
It would be like one of those like water pressure cookers, like you use it to cut glass, like just like yeah. We are again. I respect Uwe Boll for not subjecting us to the scene in which a man pisses so hard he eviscerates himself.
Yeah, Newton's every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and he's just severed in two from the force of his.
Like in an anime where a really fast samurai runs past.
And after half a second, a traditional Japanese cinema spray of urine just goes.
Yeah. Just piss everywhere.
Oh god.
They could have really used that in the final fight. They could have really used the piss blade.
They couldn't. He was a vampire. He was a Dracula at that point.
And so,
at that point, like Greg had become a Dracula.
He should have committed seppuku.
Do you know what? Well done. Out the call. Do you know what? There's one more line that I have to mention, and this is the last one that I feel needs to just be displayed in its entirety. Is they meet up with the initial bunch, Rudy and the guy who's filming, who in the prologue was just directly filming someone's tits right in front of their face. Without repercussion or anything like that. It was very, very bizarre. And no, they meet up with them, and Rudy says like, I thought you were more of them. The model goes, them? Who the hell is them? And he goes, who? More like what? And I just wanted it to carry on like Thor Ragnarok and be like, what? More like why? Why? More like how? And just go back and forth with different
I'll do you one better.
Why is the zombies?
The zombies of Abbott and Costello come up and start doing the Who's on First routine. Like it just gets outlandish.
You say that, but Abbott and Costello did do a series of gothic horror movies where it was Abbott and Costello meets Dracula and so on and so forth.
And they're surprisingly good for the 50s.
Okay, yeah. There needs qualifiers there.
Better than House of the Dead 2004 or 3 or whenever it came out.
Yeah.
House of the Dead 2004 is less racist than the Abbott and Costello film. But only
much.
Only just. Barely.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Also, I've just remembered one of the earliest lines in the film is, so Greg has like quite a neutral American accent. He says a lot of things in like a sort of generic, could be from California, could be from like anywhere in America. But there's one line right at the beginning where he becomes the most Boston fucking guy. Like they're all like, oh, we can't get to the Island de la Muerte for the Sega rave. That's a shame. Lying, presumably. And then Greg then goes, shit, we're so fucked! and then it goes straight back to normal, as if he didn't just like transform into all of the Dropkick Murphys. And then
I'm shipping off to Isla de Muerte.
They're trying to commandeer the vessel, like, we are duly appointed federal marshals and we're getting to the Isla de Muerte.
Oh my god! What a fucking film!
I'm so hot right now. I'm just sweating.
It's hot anyway, but I feel like we've all got very animated and also aged significantly discussing this film.
Yeah. So I feel like I'm weaker. Something's left me, or was taken from me.
I was bit by a zombie before we started, and this fever is the only thing that's keeping my blood going. So
good stuff.
But again, thank you, Uwe Boll.
I mean, he's doing someone's work. I hasten to say the Lord's work, but it's some celestial being has said that Uwe Boll should do this, and God bless them for doing it. So Jim has already said some things that they liked. Does anyone else have anything at all positive to say about this film?
Anything positive?
I do actually have one more positive thing.
You've had your time.
Two whole things.
Go on.
The boat that Captain Kirk sails on is called the Lazarus, and that's just cute. That's just fucking cute. I just like that. I just like, oh, you thought about something in your film for like 5 minutes. That's nice. Well done.
I bet you.
Bowl. You get 1 gold star for your very obvious and on the nose but cute boat name.
I bet you $1,000 they didn't intend it.
It was just already there.
They had no idea.
I mean, Jim, we said before we started recording that you are a flexible trans, but I don't think even you could limbo over the bar we've set in this film.
The spaghetti-like gender could not navigate this film.
I maintain that Jim's cinema opinions exist exclusively to give me a hernia. I am certain. Every day it's a new text about like what? Oh yeah, this is actually a cinematic masterpiece. I am going to take a piss, much like Greg, and blow myself up. like someone pouring petrol into the wrong fucking tank.
I just think this movie, it's a much more gratifying experience if you treat it like a drawing brought to you by a toddler. Like you're like, oh, it's so good. Look, there's the sun in the sky. You did that. That's very good. Uwe, this is Uwe. This one's going on the frit. This one is getting international distribution. You did really well.
This film was so bad that the Danish film authorities refused to share it in cinema screens. I've never heard of a film that's been said to be, barred from cinemas purely for being too bad before.
Yeah. that joins the ranks of things like the Serbian film. That is incredible. That's the level of war crime we were witnessing.
Here's a question. Has anyone seen the director's cut?
No, what?
In 2008, they released a director's cut that opens with a pre-credit scene of Uwe Boll getting hate mail and then being kidnapped by the Taliban.
What?
For his bad movie that he made?
What?
This is why
That's
we're doing...
not real.
Yep. It also features like pop-up like comic book speech bubbles with like random asides and a manometer, which is which judges the manliness of the actions of the characters on screen.
Wow.
Right.
This is a real thing.
That's all well and good until that like proves objectively that the Taliban is more masculine than Uwe Boll, which just like that sets everyone's political compass fucking like spinning.
What a humbling, self-humbling moment for him. You can't box the Taliban away.
I think the thing is that came out in 2008, so that means after we've watched Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain, In the Name of the King, Blood Rain 2, and Postal, we're gonna have to watch this again.
Don't delete your notes. Don't delete your notes.
That's so much.
Has the Taliban become ISIS by that point?
No, because they were definitely doing it in the name of Osama bin Laden.
Ah, of course.
Oh.
I mean, with all that the manliness meter and whatever it is, it reminds me of a note which I don't think, Liam, you said so far, and a comment on the experimental nature of this film. Please, can you repeat the comment that you made? So
I text this to the others because I wasn't convinced that this would be allowed, but I will say that this film is extremely experimental, and that is to its credit. However, the same is also true of Joseph Mengele. So, right, no, what you were doing here, Tom, is you're setting me up for another Muppet controversy. I yet again make a Nazi joke about something otherwise inoffensive, and everyone's pissed. I'm queer. I can make Nazi jokes. I'd be in the bastard camps.
Please get that on a first piece of UDS Films merch. I'm queer. I can make Nazi jokes.
It's just me like this in an SS uniform
with the kind of Looney Tunes little background. Just
oh,
that's right, folks. Anyway.
Oh no. How should we end this? Do you want to give it sort of a very sort of arbitrary rating out of 5 bowls? Or you could do a rating out of 5 bowls, or do we just want to sort of say this is like the benchmark now, the next one will either be better or worse, and then we go from there?
Yeah, I'm gonna give it 2.5 bowls
out of
because we don't know. This might be as good as it gets.
Yeah.
This is true.
I don't want to commit any like specific bowl rating just yet because we have to find out, as Jim was saying, where it stands with all the other films. However, I will say it will take at least 2 bullets for this fucker to stay down. But that's my rating. I will sink 2 shotgun bullets into this film to make sure it doesn't get back up again.
Very good.
I personally want to use this as the baseline and say that this is 0 bowls. This is the starting baseline of Uwe Boll movies, and it will be 0 bowls. Who knows? 0 could be the highest score he ever gets. And everything else, ranges from -250 to -16 bowls, and this is his best movie. I wonder if that's the case. Technically,
from what I've heard, Alone in the Dark was even more critically panned.
Oh no!
Dead.
Oh,
beautiful.
I mean, I'm starting to get concerned because when I was thinking about this, I was looking to see if there was any other sort of either audiovisual podcast things based purely on the movies of Uwe Boll, and I couldn't really find anything, which leads me to believe that if this gets even the remotest bit of traction, he's going to find this. He strikes me as the sort of person who will Google his own name and see what people are saying about him.
He Zuckerberg's nightly. He just goes on and refreshes his own Facebook page or his own YouTube, like a search bar for Uwe Boll, and checks the latest entries minute by minute.
The reason that there are no other ones is because every time someone does, as soon as it is uploaded, Uwe Boll appears in your house.
Tom,
punches you in the back
He looks so dismissive. Ah!
You become the ingredients for his surprisingly successful chain of restaurants.
Of
Like
course.
Neil will be
Yeah,
shortly.
like Neil is the entree.
Yeah, I'd have to be the entree. Not a lot on me.
The thing is that there is another high probability. There is a chance, shall we say, that we could actually get him on this show at some point, and I feel like that is the logical conclusion of the Uwe Boll Bowl. So
I don't want to get my lights punched out.
Yeah, well, you're just asking for trouble at that point. All we're doing is ragging on his films right now.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be particularly impressed with that.
We've compared him to a Nazi scientist, an incompetent child.
No. I said this reminded me of the experiments of a Nazi scientist.
Yes.
That is different.
And I compared him to a very creatively competent child. I will say this. I don't want to out myself in terms of my predilections. If we can get Uwe Boll involved and he wishes for some kind of physical retribution, I will fly to wherever he is to be punched by Uwe Boll. I will pay to do that out of my own money. to be decked to the ground by the director of House of the Dead.
You will not survive getting sparked out by Uwe Boll.
No one has.
Has this whole thing been a bit of a flirtation for you, Jim? You just want to punish me, Daddy Boll.
That's why I've got to sprinkle in the in the compliments. It's like it's like, oh well, if you just do a little bit better.
It's a compliment sandwich.
If you just try a little harder, you can please me, Daddy.
It took every fiber of my being when you said if we're going to get Uwe Boll involved to not correct you and say if we can get Uwe Boll involved. But
oh God,
yeah,
you always have to elevate the tone, Tom.
So just quickly before we round out, I found some reviews because I want to see what the world thinks about this because obviously it was correctly panned. It got 3% on Rotten Tomatoes, 2.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and 15% on Metacritic. So dog shit reviews.
50%.
15.
Oh, thank Christ. Oh.
I want to see what positives people have to say. And a person called Mason Zanali says, quite underrated. If you like fun and cool zombie movies such as Ghosts on Mars, then it is worth it to watch it. Very confusingly worded. The music is decent.
Ghosts on Mars is a terrible film.
Well, there
this
we
guy
go.
liked it. Yeah. Mason liked it. The music is decent. Actors are good looking. Effects are decent. After all that, quite high praise, this person then rounds out. I give it a 4.5 out of 10, which I couldn't even bring himself to lie.
Wow.
And then immediately below that, and this is my favorite review I found of this film. It's from Israel Zavala 2 years ago. An utter waste of film.
Is that it?
That's it. That's the whole fucking review. That's all you need. That's all you need to know.
And yet, it is a real cultural touchstone. And after watching it, I don't know why. I don't know why we're talking about it.
At the time, IGN gave it 3 out of 5 stars.
You're joking.
With one, granted, Boll uses Matrix slow-mo technology, but surprisingly, he keeps it to a minimum.
He did it about 16 times as
I was
much
gonna
as
say,
the Matrix
the best
did.
thing about those Matrix pulls is that they did it, but they obviously didn't shoot enough to do like a full. So they just went back and forth. But and each time they did it at least 4 or 5 times per person. And if I'm going to watch Uwe Boll rip off the Matrix, I don't want to see him do it in a subdued way.
Yeah.
I don't want subdued Boll. I don't want Uwe Boll's Dogma 95. I want Uwe Boll to be doing complete bullshit.
I want bullets to fill the air. I want bullets to
I'm
outnumber
very
zombies
grateful
by
that
a
he
factor of 1,000.
Yeah.
I'm just grateful that he did that for me personally.
This is just telling us a lot about the scene of the cinematic landscape in 2004 because 16 Matrix shots is considered subtle. So like every other film was doing way fucking more. Like God, Charlie's Angels was basically filmed in slow-mo apart from like a handful of dialogue scenes. And Lord knows it's a fucking great film. So.
Yeah, I mean that film has got Crispin Glover in it, so it's instantly better than this film. But
it was 2003, right?
It was 2003 originally. I think the UK release was 2004.
I just want to remind you guys what else came out in 2003. The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. The Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl.
Both of the Matrix sequels.
Kill Bill Volume 1. Daredevil and Paycheck. Ben Affleck was killing it at the time.
You also forget that The Room came out in 2003.
Ang Lee's Hulk and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Both classic films as far as I'm fucking concerned.
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is a film that definitely I'm going to include in movies that deserve more love. I have such a guilty pleasure for that film.
I quit like right now.
You know what this film actually reminds me of? I think it was 2002 Cabin Fever, just like visually and kind of stylistically.
Yeah. I don't remember that film.
Eli Roth. I think, if anything, I think just generally it gives me Eli Roth vibes.
Yeah, just the cheapest grindhouse bullshit.
Yes.
I watched Cabin Fever right after watching this, and I would have happily watched House of the Dead 4 times in a row than sit through Cabin Fever ever again for as long as I live. That movie is the most hateful piece of shit. At least this movie was fun in places. Like this movie had like backflipping axe zombies.
Yeah,
that will never be a bad thing. Like I can't lie.
I will not be watching Cabin Fever based on that review.
Sorry, I'm just stunned by what a cinematic hellscape 2003 was. Sorry, this is all I'm thinking about now. The Italian Job remake, The Last Samurai with Tom Cruise is The Last Samurai.
Oh wow.
Sorry, I can't look at it anymore.
I've become very upset that the IGN review has chosen to abbreviate the film as Hot D.
Hot. Oh, I see.
Oh.
And that hurts. That physically hurts. If I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not.
I'd like to say I'm surprised and upset and disappointed with IGN, but I was not surprised.
Very on brand.
I'm still upset, but I'm not.
You could say that IGN are the Uwe Boll of online review.
Oh no, that's us. We Upside Down Shark is the Uwe Boll of online reviews. Like,
we make quality content about Muppet Nazis. I'll have you know.
Yeah.
We fill a gap.
I maintain it's the best piece of writing I've ever done. I stand by this, and the internet just isn't ready for my art.
I mean, it inadvertently got the term "the Muppets" trending in the UK for a brief afternoon on Twitter. So the zeitgeist, you tapped it like a good huppity buppity.
And what I realised about that is it started trending. I took my dog for a walk. When I got back, it was no longer trending. It was the briefest, like, you know, the whole 15 minutes of fame. Andy Warhol ain't got shit on this.
I don't like how you're validating him. He's got a full Galileo complex on right now. He's like, I'm just misunderstood. I'll be proved to be a genius in my time. The Muppet Nazis are the center of the universe.
Well,
right, this thing, I'm gonna die, and they're gonna make Schindler's List with Kermit. Like, you fucking wait. No matter how tasteless you think I am, the world is always more tasteless than me.
Yeah, this is true.
That sounds profound.
I should also say for anyone watching this at home, do go to upsidedownshow.com for the article that we're discussing. Otherwise, you haven't got a Scooby-Doo, the one from Scooby-Doo, what we're talking about.
Well, from Scooby-Doo and Zombie Island,
yeah, which also has a better song, because the House of the Dead rap in this is fun, but nothing will top the Terror Time song from from Scooby-Doo.
Stuck right in my head.
Yeah, from Zombie Island. I want to do a video on that period of Scooby-Doo at some point, because you got the alien invaders, you got the cyber attack thing with like the Lightning Man. That was a golden time for straight to DVD.
Well, if Uwe Boll directs any Scooby-Doo films, we can slide it in.
Can that be our request? We get him on the show and we're like, we've brought you here for one reason. No, 2 reasons. One, you need to beat the shit out of Jim. He's going to love it. And then the second thing is we need you to make a Scooby-Doo film. We are willing to finance it with our threadbare budget.
Mr. Boll, we've given you funding for for Jim Henson's Schindler's List.
We've made 68 pounds in ad revenue on YouTube. You can have it. You
By
can
the
have
way,
all of it.
Uwe Boll might not be a bad choice because he has made a film about Auschwitz.
Which we will get to in due
I
course.
really think that's not a good idea. Also, you know how you said that it was bad that you compared Uwe Boll to a Nazi scientist? Well, on the Wikipedia page for Auschwitz, his film about Auschwitz, the cast includes Uwe Boll as Nazi officer outside gas chamber.
Oh, no.
Wow. Oh, no.
So apparently, 2011, a lot of personal growth as a filmmaker.
Can I also say that the Wikipedia page for Auschwitz, you know, when something is describing its style or its purpose or its cinematic intent, it somehow manages to sass him in the plot section of the Wikipedia page by saying the film attempts to depict the harsh reality of the process inside the Auschwitz concentration camp. It attempts, and there's no citation needed. Everyone agreed on Wikipedia that it's an attempt. It is not a success.
At this point, they're like, Uwe, listen, this one's not going on the fridge. We're not going to put Auschwitz on the fridge.
It's going to go to a special place, a box that no one else will see.
Your kid comes in, he's got like a nice little picture of like me and Daddy, and we're standing in front of the house, and there's the sun shining, and it's all very, very nice. And then the next day he comes back with a fucking swastika. It's like, oh, I see. This is a descent. This is the start of something dark. I see.
I'm
Right,
sorry.
okay.
These were the golden days before.
Because I know we will never cover this film because we just shouldn't. In the production section of the Wikipedia, Auschwitz was filmed on the set of Blood Rain, The Third Reich.
Oh, good Lord, no. Oh.
Uwe, you did it again!
I'm right. How dare you people question me? I am the prophet of bad taste.
Oh my God, just because he's German.
He's like, listen, we've got a bunch of Nazi stuff laying around. Why don't you just give me a little extra money to depict one of the worst atrocities in human history? Yeah. Since we're here.
It'd be silly not to.
Plenty of blood bags. They bled.
That's
it's
true.
fine. Oh my God. Also, one of the most horrible credits I've ever seen in a movie is Oven Prisoner. Why is it an oven? You don't call it an oven.
Can we also talk about the fact that he sued the Berlin International Film Festival because he didn't want to pay the €125 entry fee?
We need to get him on the show immediately.
The more I read about him, the more I want to.
We will do a special episode purely on the man at some point. That is for damn sure.
You've met Tommy Wiseau, Tom. The next up is Uwe Boll. You need to collect these guys.
Yeah. Tommy Wiseau ain't got shit on Uwe Boll.
Yeah.
Tommy Wiseau's been coasting off one movie for the last 2 decades. Uwe Boll put the work in to be off-putting.
Tommy Wiseau is a mystery, and Uwe Boll hides nothing. He is the most.
What you see is what you get. You just might not want to look at it. Oh.
Yeah, Tommy Wiseau claims to have made all of his money selling jeans or something. If you asked Uwe Boll where he made his money, he would admit to crimes. He would admit to every possible crime.
He'd make up crimes.
He didn't obscure ones like fucking panda smuggling and shit.
You're telling me that guy just decided he was going to open a restaurant in Canada? That's fucking money laundering if I've ever seen it.
Those are the actions of a man who is getting Harper seals from like down to the fucking border. He is committing so many illegal activities.
That is a man with a lot of Nazi gold to melt down and distribute.
He's a one-man thieves guild. He's incredible.
Well, unless anyone else has any other crimes they want to accuse Uwe Boll of, I think we're about done.
Wait, I'm just going to quickly save our asses. Allegedly.
Perfect.
I'll do it.
Bulletproof. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me on this odyssey. It's been a wild ride, and I'm glad that I didn't.
It's been a ride. We're one film in.
I know. Good job we're doing these once a month and not once a week. Otherwise, I think I would start getting leprosy. Jesus. So yeah, do subscribe to UDS Films for more stuff Uwe Boll themed. We've got some other stuff made by the team, but we will have other Uwe Boll stuff. So don't fret. But until then, do all the usual subscribe-y, follow-y, likey nonsense bollocks, and check out upsidedownshard.com for all sorts of other stuff that we do. It's a good time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
I like keeping it as awkward as possible.
Will you hide or will you bear witness?